Happy Monday. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back, Missy of
Thank you for having
Schedulicity.
me.
If you don't know Missy, go back and listen to a few episodes ago where we introduced her. So check that out first and then come back here. And today
Yeah.
we're talking about boundaries, I guess, and which ties into, I think, systems and how you go about even finding clients in the first place. Because finding the right clients makes life easier than having to reverse engineer everything.
Agreed.
100%. And then going about the clients finding you the right way also
Great point.
helps your boundaries as well. It's like double
Yes.
whammy.
For sure. All right, let's dive into
Here we are, the holidays.
Yeah, happy holidays.
Which is why we need to talk about boundaries.
Which is why our brains are like, what'd you do for Thanksgiving? Oh, I played football. Let's talk about something related to salons. But let's jump in with boundaries. Where do we want to start? You have any? There's so many.
We're going to talk all about how I don't have very many. I try all the time, and then I epically fail. And this time of the year, I really fail.
So why don't we see if this would be fun? Why don't we see if Missy has advice for Jen? Because my advice for Jen never works. That could be interesting for people.
I love this game.
What are some of your non-boundaries, Jen?
I go in early. I stay late. I take too many clients.
Hold on. By going early, she means her phone is going off at what, 5, 6? Sometimes.
Maybe like 7.
Okay, so 7 a.m. clients are already blasting.
Yeah.
And Jen, am I allowed to say this?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't want to throw her under the bus.
I don't think I'm going to be, I think there's people that are like me. I'm not the only one.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, I love this. Like, let's keep it rolling.
So Jen has a really difficult time not responding in like milliseconds to people.
Correct.
So she could be in the middle of doing something at home, but if the phone dings, she's got, I never talk about text messaging as the phone dinging, but here we are. So her phone, lights up or whatever, and she's booking clients now or moving clients and doing things that I think can certainly wait until, normal business hours.
And remind you, we have a staff of like 13, so I'm doing it for myself and for them because when anything comes in, I do it all right away.
What is the phone here?
I'm
leaning
it's good, isn't
conversation. I'm here. Let's all lean in, everybody. So is the phone number for the salon your cell phone?
No. And we have, so my clients from back in the day when I used to work for myself have my
boundary number 1.
Yep. And then also what I do, which is probably really bad, if clients call and leave voicemails at the salon, I don't feel like dealing with like phone tag. So I just text them from my cell phone. I'm like, you can just tell me when you want to come in and I'll book it rather than you calling and then I'm calling you back and then you're calling. And I don't know, that just doesn't work for me.
I see validity to all of this. I would have a first question. Let's go. My first question of this actually has less to do with the actual boundary and more to do with the source of why this behavior exists. So, my first question would be, is the quick response from a customer service level, or is it because how long have you been independent? Like, I mean, obviously you all own your own salon, but previously,
probably 18 years, probably. Majority of my career.
Okay, same. So how much of it is the thought that if the clients don't get booked, that's lost revenue?
Oh yeah, probably all from that.
Yeah, that's what
especially when it comes to the staff, because my clientele is like, I've known them, probably most of them for like 23 years. But when it comes from a staff of somebody's new trying to get in, and I'm like, we got to get them in right away. We got to, in this day and age, if you put a Facebook post up, you're getting like 50 salons that want you. So it's like, okay, who can get them first?
I think that this is, I think, an interesting version of what the boundary conversation looks like, because we can all say, boundaries and protect yourself, but there is a different level when you are a self-employed entrepreneur. That's just the bottom line, because nobody's signing your paycheck. So there is that background knowledge that is virtually impossible, in my opinion, to ditch of knowing the cause and effect of if a client wants to get in, that is our revenue.
Mhm.
How do we source that correctly? Obviously, we could talk, Jen, about putting tons of systems in place, but I think it's important to I think it's important for this conversation for us to start off with that it's not that Jen's just like, "Oh, I gotta text people back." Like, she's thinking from a larger, broader perspective of an entrepreneur that that phone call equals
Mhm.
revenue.
And luckily, in today's world and with the marketing Todd has kind of put us in to get in front of people more on an online presence, majority of our bookings now are coming from online booking. So a few years back, I was even more of a spaz. But because a lot of our business is now driven through online, I'm able to be a little less spazzy.
Yeah, but sometimes even when you have online booking, there's
Mhm.
questions. You know, like a client's like, "Oh, I'm in there. What do I
Right.
need to book for?" Or there's it just be I think that's a common uh that's actually something that I've noticed is that people think that they toggle on online booking and the problem is solved. And there are steps. Yes, that problem is solved. Obviously, it's my job to say that problem is solved, but as a service provider myself, I would say you also need to make sure that you're front loading that
Mhm.
information to make that actual appointment booking as seamless as possible for your boundaries. It's not just it doesn't just
Right.
like happen. You have to let a client know exactly what that process looks like, how they know what to book, what they need to do. Our I joke that our brains turn off, especially if your clients are coming from an online state. We're all sort of in this online like I don't even know, trance maybe when we're scrolling or online or doing whatever it is that we're doing. And so how do we actually facilitate making it easy for somebody who's living in
Mhm.
that trance state to get on our books, and that requires going above and beyond with laying out exactly what that looks like, so that they're not texting you at 7 o'clock
Correct.
in the morning.
So I like all that, but where I think Jen struggles, it's her existing clients.
Yes.
So clients booking online would not have your cell phone number, would they?
They would not. Although I do have clients that have my cell phone number and do book online.
No, but what I'm saying is a new client that has never been to our salon ever
True. They would
would
just
not likely have your cell phone number. Now, I know my cell phone number is out there for various reasons
samesies.
or whatever, and I'm sure you can get people's cell phone numbers, but generally speaking, I don't think you have like these people that are going to book an appointment and then become a detective and find your cell phone number.
You never know.
So, what we're
Yeah,
talking
true.
about is the people that, and I'm trying to tread lightly because you're sitting within
Yeah.
shot here, but these people are
Wait, it might make it more fun. Just say
Yeah.
what you mean what you say.
this
Let's
this
go.
would
Let's
make good
go.
video content for YouTube for
I
sure,
am
but
aware of the flaws that I have.
these are clients
Aware.
that are loyal clients of many years who have been allowed to sort of creep in, and they're by no means like bad people, but when you give somebody some sort of freedom, like give an inch, take the whole ruler type of
Right.
thing, that holds up here. So our clients aren't thinking and they're like, oh, I got to get my kids off to the bus, but I'll text Jen first because they're thinking I want to get my hair done, whatever, they're excited. That's fine. But I don't think you need to immediately respond because we also have kids to get off to the bus, or you also have to go to the doctor or the grocery store or whatever.
Right.
And I think that when you allow that to sort of trickle in little by little, before you know it, there's no boundary and your business is just 24 hours a day and you're stressed out and you're like, let's sell this mother. You know what I mean? So
Just kind of my
Yeah.
life.
yeah, you go, it's up and down. The people that I met with on Monday were like, on Monday, I love my salon. On Tuesday, I am a keystroke away from listing it for sale. On Wednesday, I'm going to rent a chair by myself. On Thursday, I'm throwing a party for my staff because I realize how awesome they are. By Friday, it's the weekend. And I'm like, that is
That's
so,
kind of how it
So
does go.
and I think that's normal. And that's why I was excited when Missy and Kelly, I think when we first drafted these sort of list of topics, I saw boundaries, and I was like, this is an awesome one, because I don't think there are many boundaries in the hair industry unless people are black and white. So I think it boils down to maybe what you're okay with. And it's fine, but I do think you need boundaries somewhere.
So majority of this year, by the way, I did have the boundary of not checking my phone until the kids got on the bus. Somewhere, I don't know where I lapsed, and I clearly need therapy, and I went back on that. But I did have, like, that's where that was. I wouldn't answer anybody. I wouldn't check it. I don't even let the text pop up on my phone, so I have no business doing anything with my phone. And then I don't know where I'm at today, because my boundaries all just fell down. But for majority of the year, I was doing pretty good with it. And then same thing at night. If the salon was open, so we were available, we used Slack to communicate. I sort of had my phone available if the staff needed something, and then we close at 8, phone's off, like whatever. And I don't know how I just fell on top of myself, which is probably what a lot of people do.
100%. And here's the other thing I have to say to this, because I think sometimes well, first of all, 2 things, and this is a me thing and a Schedulicity thing. There is no one way to run your business, period. So when you've got someone out there that's like, boundaries and do it exactly this way and whatever, that is so lovely to think that there is this one size fits all boundary, but that is
Not reality.
not true and not real, because we are dealing with different personality types. My personality type might be different than yours, Jen. And then we're dealing with different family situations. Do you have your kids full time? Are you a split household where you're sharing kids? So sometimes you can be on, sometimes you can't. There's so many different versions of what a personal life of a service provider looks like, that we can't say, this is the boundary, just do it. I will also go one step further to say, when we go in and make these policies or boundaries or whatever for ourselves, that it almost feels sometimes like we're doing this crash diet where it's like, well, I only eat raw vegetables every day, and I'm never gonna let myself do anything else. And then 2 minutes later, you're ordering Little Caesars
and eating in the
because
closet
you
because
starved
no one will know.
yourself. Yeah, exactly. I've got my fun dip in the corner, So I do think I will go back to this, and probably any business conversation I have ever is moderation. I learned that from my pop-up at a very young age. He says everything in moderation, and I truly believe that that translates into a successful pattern if we're talking raw vegetables and fun dip or boundaries. One of the beautiful things I think about what we do is that when you've worked as hard as you have, Jen, to be an independent service pro for 18 years, and now you own a salon, if you want to answer your phone at 7:30 in the morning because that makes you happy to be able to service that client like that in that moment, you've earned that right. You've earned a right to do that. Now it's the fact that if you're doing that to the point where you want to burn your business to the ground and then sell it tomorrow, then we have a problem. But the one size fits all boundaries is where I have a hard stop in a conversation, because it's just not realistic.
One of the issues that we run into, since we're having therapy right now.
Okay. I love this. This is my favorite. Let's go.
So Jen, coffee. Yeah, I have my coffee. Lukewarm. I'm not allowed to drink anything hot. I had a wisdom tooth out, so I'm not allowed to have anything
the
hot.
worst.
Oh. It's not that bad, actually. Let me take a little sip here. All right. So one of the things we run into is we put into place Slack to use for our team. And when you don't have it black and white, because I do agree that things in moderation and lines are always going to get blurred, and there's always going to be sometimes, right? But what happens with our staff is they will bypass Slack, go directly to Jen, and then I have no idea what they're talking about or what anybody's talking about because it didn't go through the proper channels. And the reason we set those channels up were not to make it more difficult, but was to make it easier and more seamless. I don't have a specific example, but there will be something that people are talking about or some event or whatever. and they go directly to Jen, which is totally fine. My feelings aren't hurt, but then I don't have a way of knowing what the hell Jen is talking about when she comes home because I'm not in the chain. You know what I mean? So that's one of the things
This
that
is
we've noticed is like I do think it needs to be black and white. So it's especially with
In that case, yeah.
stuff that's silly, like people have time off, and I'm like, why is this person's schedule blocked off? I don't know if they just went to Jen. It's just as easy to go into Slack than it is to send a text. You know, in my opinion, an app is an app, so it's whatever.
Right.
And I think it keeps everything more
I
organized.
I agree. And I do think with procedures and protocol, boundaries and procedures and protocol, they exist in unison but aren't necessarily the same. So this is where we get into, and I would say you could go into this with that client perspective of texting you in the morning as well. This is where we would get into what I would like to call as a redirection of behavior. So, and this can translate to a client when they're texting you instead of using your online booking link. This can translate to a staff member who's not following, staff a Slack protocol. A very simple, hey, thanks so much for texting me this. Can you please put this question in Slack so that we can keep the thread? That's
Yeah.
the response
Easy.
instead of carrying
Oh.
on with the conversation in the text.
I think Jen, can you repeat what you just said, Jen?
I said that's easy. I do that.
You do not do that.
Prove it.
And the same for, look, they're hugging everybody. The same for a client who's texting you first thing in the morning. I am too good at boundaries with my phone at one point. I'm very much an all or nothing. This is why moderation would be my keyword all the time because I'm either the respond right away or you'll never hear back from me. There's zero in between. Like zero. So I'm I had to come up with ways where I could again redirect clients and say, actually, this is how, for a quick response, this is what you can do. I always phrase it in a way where it's to their benefit. Hey, thanks so much. Totally fine that you have to rebook. I actually have it saved in my notes. Totally fine that you have to rebook. Here's the link. You can actually go in and do it yourself. That's going to be quicker than us playing phone tag. Make it seem like it's actually of benefit to
Mm.
the client, even though we all know it's because you freaking don't want to text back and forth. But we sounded really good
Well, and
with
part of it is
redirecting
just
that
literally
behavior.
how you sound. If you sound like you're being helpful, people take that in a different way than if you're barking at them, right? And in a text, that can come
Exactly.
through kind of wonky either way. But if you sort of go, which Todd and I talk about this often, like that help first mentality, people respond a lot better and it diffuses the situation. They're like, oh, what a great idea. Thank you. Like you're helping me when you're really helping both of you.
Yes. And maybe even
Yeah,
really
for
just
sure. But
helping
you make them
yourself. This
feel
is
warm and
something
fuzzy about it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. We have this conversation all of the time. Actually, I'm teaching my 15-year-old how to do this with
Mhm.
altercations and interactions, which falls in, boundaries are an interaction that potentially can result in
Yeah,
altercation. So they are something that can be approached very similarly. And the thing that I keep teaching her when you're trying to address a situation, you cannot tell the other person what they should be feeling or
right.
doing because that's inviting a response back in contradiction. All you can say is from your side of the street forward. So instead of so that you don't have to text me at 7:30 in the morning because I'm getting my kids off to school and that ticks me off and what is wrong with you? It's hey, I'm not always great about being able to respond back and forth. I've actually put this into place in my booking process. Here's the link. This is going to get you on the books way faster than us playing phone tag, and then you can save it for later. Hope that helps. Let me know if you have any
Yeah,
questions.
that's great.
I always go back
Boom.
to the response and what is an appropriate time period. So we have on our website, and if people reach out through email, generally it's me that they contact. And lately we've been getting a bunch of wedding requests for next year, which is great. But like I just said, like
That's
I just said,
amazing.
yeah, thank you. So, but like I just said, that's for next year. So I have on there, I'll get back to you within 48 hours because there is nothing pressing about, October 2024 that we need to deal with right this second.
Excuse me, sir, have you ever been a bride?
No,
It's
negative.
pressing.
Everything is
Yeah.
pressing.
I agree.
Everything is pressing. The menu for the for the appetizer is
All
pressing
right. All
for
right.
this 18-month
Yeah.
rollout.
So true.
So no.
Just
I
kidding, keep going.
know.
But even
I know
letting
what
them
you're
know
saying,
when the
but
response will get to them so that they understand there's a window
exactly.
of
I think
you getting to them.
I think where Jen struggles a lot is if somebody texts, it's not that they're necessarily expecting a reply that minute. It just happens to be when they thought of it. But you think, maybe not
Yes.
you, Jen, specifically, but a lot of people think if I don't reply immediately, this person's canceling. I also do their mom's hair. She's going to cancel. Everyone's leaving me. My clients are leaving me.
I don't have that mindset, but I do think that's a
No,
normal mindset for
Not
people.
anymore, but I
Yeah.
think you've been there before.
Mine is more, I want to get it off my plate so I don't have to think about it and have it like hanging over my head. That's really what that comes from. And then I'll forget. That happens.
I completely get that, and I think there are 2 sides to that. The other side to that, to your point, is I see a lot of reactive communication on the interwebs
Mhm.
from stylists getting upset with clients for not having boundaries, and you just said a very key thing, that someone texting at 7:30 in the morning is almost never that they're expecting a response in that moment. It's that that's when they were
Mhm.
thinking about it. And consumer behavior in 99.999% of everything else allows us to make decisions on our behalf at any time of the day. That's
Mhm.
just the reality
Mhm.
of what it is now. So when they're texting you at 7:30 in the morning, they're not like, "Oh, I want you to stop everything you're doing." Now, if someone is in that mindset, I would venture to say we might
Yeah.
need to think a little bit about if that client's the right fit for you. It's a whole
Agreed.
other story than boundaries, but let's talk about just aligning with our client expectations. But in that this is the most key point of this story, I feel like right here. Someone is reaching out to you because that's when they thought about it. So that's their side of the street. What are we going to do for
Mhm.
our side of the street? And for you, Jen, I would recommend maybe spending some time coming up with some scripts where you can kind of go through proactively and let every client who has your phone number know that the most effective way to communicate with you and book with you is to follow
Mhm.
XYZ protocol, which ideally would not be your phone number.
Gotcha.
And you're gonna do that before they actually reach out. You're going to go through and reach
Mhm.
out to them.
I love it. I think a lot of people listening are probably just they're like, "Wow, I can let people know before I get,"
Yeah.
but that so and another thing is in this well, in a lot of industries, people will jump in before they're ready. So I was at our local distributor here in the Northeast, Sullivan Beauty. They had a get together for like their top salons and sort of like a round table, and it was really cool. And
Pause. That means you were one of the
Yeah.
top
yeah,
salons. Keep going.
here we are.
Ew. Let's not roll
Woo!
past that.
So it was actually called Elite Salon
It was. Sounds
Roundtable.
even fancier
So
now.
it does sound fancy.
Okay, okay. Don't leave that out of the
But when we
equation.
were talking, some of the salons were saying like even they dove in before they realized what was going on or that they needed sort of like a business skill set. And I want people listening because I see a lot of people dive into independent stylists. That's what their sort of goal is. They come out of school and they think I have to get to independent as fast as possible. Now that I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that because I don't decide other people's goals. What I will say though is because I've talked to some of the people is that doing hair is not going to build a business skill set. Building a business is going to build your business skill set. So, Missy, when you brought up being proactive and building these systems, if you're listening right now and you're like struggling with this stuff, you have like take that first step, build that first system, do something. I don't care what it is. It could be like creating your cleaning list or creating your opening checklist. But when you avoid that stuff and you think, I'm just going to do hair and that will get me by, in my opinion, and from what I've seen, you're setting yourself up for failure.
100%. And this is where, to your point, you get to choose your own adventure within this industry. If what you truly want to do is hair and leave for the day, there are brilliant commission salon owners that are doing the business system things on the back end for you to be able to do that. If you want full control over what your actual business looks like, independent is a
Mhm.
great option for you, but then you actually do have to take personal ownership for that business side, or it is a fast track to burnout, confusion, and overwhelm because business does require the business side of things. When my husband and I owned two Jimmy John's, we call that our MBA
What
in
is Jimmy John's?
just business in general. Jimmy John's is a
Oh,
sub
no way.
franchise. It started in Chicago,
Okay.
Illinois. And yes, and then we purchased two existing ones. That's what brought us to South Florida. And we joke and literally say that owning a franchise taught us. I thought I knew business because I had been an independent service provider previously, but an entire basically what a franchise does is says, this is how a corporate
Mhm.
store operates, and we have to the most minute detail, systemize every single
Wow.
thing that we have so that this can be replicated in states and locations outside of us. And then we have to set a standard where someone's going to go in and make sure that you're following those systems. So not only are they created, you have a checks and balances on your shoulder as well. So Jimmy John's has something called a DBL, a daily beautification list. And that was literally a list for how you approached cleaning the store from corporate
That's
that
cool.
came down. And and I'm not saying you need to freaking make a way that Windex your mirrors necessarily, unless that brings you joy. But seeing and I feel like we hit on this in our previous conversation as well. Business practices are pretty universal. So when we can learn things that exist outside of our industry and
Mhm.
apply them to our craft and our day to day, it actually is going to it's going to free up real estate in our brain to be more creative and enjoy our
Agree.
clients more when we have these things in place for us, operating for us, if you will.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love systems because it does systems just give us these sort of barriers to play within. That's how Jen and I talk about it.
Mhm.
We call it a playbook. It's just our staff handbook. And
Yep.
if you can play within these sort of walls that we give you
You can be on our team.
and you can respect, yeah, you can be on our team. You have to start there. But and you can sort of respect what we're doing and our mission and our core values, then you can be creative within that.
Mhm.
So a lot of issues I think come from in business when you don't have the systems, and the systems can be like living documents. They don't, like, you picked on the Windex thing. Like, if you want to have a Windex, like, this is how we do it, and we don't use Windex, we use the 409 glass clean. I don't care. But when you find that that's not working, you should adjust it and refine it and figure out. And
Yes.
so having systems gives you your direction.
It gives you direction and I somehow always take this back to for whatever reason, and I don't know why this is. It's sometimes hard and I don't want to make a blanket statement, but what I have noticed with the people that I've taught and coached is it's hard for us to maybe make those decisions because it's actually going to be better for
Right.
ourselves sometimes. But if we can maybe rephrase it as, I'm going to tell you this is actually better for your client and going to make your business run more effectively and going to actually show a better experience for them, That's sometimes where the mindset shift can happen, where it's like, forget that you're losing your mind at 10 o'clock at night because you're trying to reply to clients or whatever. But let's actually switch that then and say, this is actually creating a better experience for your clients as a whole. When we have communication systems in place, which is these are the boundaries we're talking about, are broadly about communication. When we have those set as standards and very easy to operate protocols, their
Mhm.
experience is better because they're not thinking, "Oh my gosh, I'm thinking about this right now." My clientele right now, I'm still behind the chair 2 days a week. It's handpicked. It's people that have been with me for a very long time. And so we're on a very different sort of like client
Mhm.
stylist journey together. So when they have to reach out to me and they think it might be bothering me, I'm getting the, "I'm so sorry. I have to, whatever. I have to reach out. I hate to bother you right now." And I'm thinking to myself, "Oh man, I've put them in a position where they feel guilty that they have to rearrange something about their appointment. I need to fix that for them."
Sure.
Yeah.
Instead of being like, "Why are they reaching out to me at
Yeah.
7:30 in the," it's that my like, "Oh, I actually need to create something where they're not put in that position." That's a better
Mhm.
experience for
Sure.
them.
This is a service industry. So
Yeah.
taking care of your clients is, yeah, that's a good thing. That's something that we talk about a lot as well because, and I, there's so much overlap here too because I want to talk a little bit about taking these policies and where they should live and how to convey those to clients and potential clients.
Mhm.
Everywhere.
Yeah. So actually, if you're saying everywhere, I think we might disagree on this. So
Fun.
I'll
Okay.
just dive in then.
I love
Yeah.
this. Let's go.
So this is where real stuff happens is when there's some sort of disagreement. And I've been waiting to have a disagreement with someone on this show for since we started. Thank you. Here we are.
Yeah.
And you might be like, "Oh no, I didn't."
I'm here for I've got my
And if you're like,
coffee.
"Oh no, I didn't think of that one," I'm going to be bummed out, but we'll disagree about something later.
I don't know. Now that I'm a little competitive, so
We're
now
just
that you
gonna
said that
disagree
we
just
disagree,
'cause.
I might change. Yeah, I'm gonna change my mind on the
So,
fly.
perfect. So, we see all the passive aggressive posts on Instagram about cancellation policies and things like that. I don't think that's necessarily a professional approach. I don't think that's where you should be posting your policies necessarily. I think that's reactive, I would say, for most people. And I think that the person that you're talking to probably is not even seeing that message. That's my 2 cents on that. I think you're I think you're
Correct.
Yeah,
Proudly
it,
don't
it is
disagree.
because I agree. I think it comes from a reactive place. And I think generally that's where you should just be reaching out to that one client or two that your butt hurt about or salty and just be like, hey, this is the policy. This is what I need to convey to you rather than this out to everybody. And all the clients that are loyal to you are probably like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Was that at me? And it's not even at the right person.
No, and so we've been criticized before for not having a cancellation policy. We do have a cancellation policy. It is to deal with the individual client
Right.
because people are individuals. And I, just because I don't have a blanket, I'm charging someone 50% before this time and 72 hours and 48. I don't want to do all that math and percents. Like that just, to me, is sort of like it doesn't need to exist if you're attracting the right clients,
Right.
if you're okay with letting clients go. I've had clients that I found out have, no showed one of our barbers like 3 times in a row. And then they book with me. And I'm like, okay, with me, they don't get 3 times in a row. And then they no show me and I just blacklist them. And if they ever come in, I'll have the conversation, hey, you can't book online and then not show up. And then maybe if the person,
Can you blacklist them
Yeah,
on your
we can.
booking
yeah,
now?
we
Can
can.
you on
Okay, let's look.
Schedulicity?
Okay,
Schedulicity
good.
can.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes, you
perfect.
can. You can give
I
star
like
Oh,
it.
ratings.
oh, cool. Like Uber.
Mhm. Yes, it's exactly like
Interesting.
Uber. Keep going. I'm into this because I have things to contribute, but I want you to
That
finish your
I think
thought.
that was really it. It's just that we have individual conversations. So if you have somebody that no showed you, my first thing is we're in the customer service industry here. Are we sure that person's okay? Do they need a ride? Do they get a flat tire? Like, because as we talked about earlier, when they text you in the morning, it's because that's what is on their mind. If I, for example, and I've done this, rolled my car over on the highway, my first instinct is not going to be, I better text my stylist or barber to cancel my appointment.
It might be
I
somebody's
agree.
though.
It's definitely somebody's. Jen has clients that would do that.
Yeah, they
I
would.
guarantee. Sorry, Jen, I'm in traction. Can't make it today. No, but I think that we have to, as an industry, and we don't have to. This is what makes discussion fun. My 2 cents would be to deal with it on an individual basis, and then you're just continuing to develop relationships with the right people and weed out the wrong people. That's all I have.
I think there's a mindset too that we convey to our staff more so that Todd and I have, which is for them when they do have that last minute cancellation or no show, it's such a small percentage of the clientele that they do see. And it's easy to hyper focus on the ones that did that to you rather than focus on everyone else that is showing up. And we will sometimes speak to the value of a client long term. So you can go ahead and charge them half that service. They're never coming back. But the value of the long term, if you don't and you realize shit happened to them that day, it does happen. You know, if it continues to happen, now we're in a different ballgame. But one time, I don't think the client needs to be stressed out about their hair appointment. Like I said, if it's a habitual thing, way different conversation. Even if it's 2 in a row, I'm gonna talk to that client now gets a call. But it's to that client, not to all the clients under our roof. I have a lot of loyal people for 23 years. And out of all of that, if one time they forgot about me or didn't like show up or canceled last minute, there is no way in hell I am charging them. Like, it's just not happening because the value of them to me and their loyalty is worth more than that one appointment. And I realize that I may have to do the same to them in the future. So it's okay.
And that's a huge part of it too, is have you done the math? We've done the math with our staff, and we actually haven't done this exercise in a while, so we should, but have you looked at what is your gold standard? So do you have clients for 5 years? Do you have clients for 10 years? Do you have 20-year? I'm sure you guys have 20-year clients. The value of that client over 20 years, what is that versus 50% of your 2-hour, 3-hour appointment on Saturday that they missed? I get it. I get that the immediate, hit to the wallet, but if you're going to be in business, you're going to be in business. That's going to happen. You're going to have highs, you're going to have lows. Talk to any business, talk to the massive companies. They have stocks. Stocks go up and down. That's the whole point. You know what I mean? So
It is universal. It's very interesting that we can get it, and I think this is probably in general, we're always zoomed in and more hyper focused on the arena that we're in, but there are things that happen daily. And again, I'm gonna circle it back to Jimmy John's because it's a really good. I love to use the examples from Jimmy John's because I'm like, bro, it was a sub shop and we're doing hair and we're talking about the same problems. That means business is universal.
Yes.
Let's go. There would be days where we would run out of bread because we have 3 different ways to serve a sandwich, and then somebody would come in and we've maybe not sold the quantity that we would have thought of wheat. We've oversold the white bread. Somebody only wants white bread, and so but it's gonna be another hour because it's baked in store. So you lose that profit because somebody came in. There's lost profit. That's part of what happens with operating business. You can strong arm yourself to have things built up. Like you said, you're going to focus on your client relationships. This is I would say, part of your business plan is actually your relationship with your clients. That's part of your ideal customer profile. We call it an ICP, is a client that's going to want to be with you and operate like this and be in sort of this symbiotic relationship with their stylist versus potentially another salon. Their ICP might be more of a turn
Right.
and burn. Just get as many as you can in as quick as you can, and we're going to roll at that rate. Those are 2 different business plans. I wouldn't say one is right or wrong. I would say one would be my preference versus the other. But again, this is where we get into paying attention to what's happening around us and thinking that we have to structure it to fit ours. Maybe that policy that you're watching happening is coming from more of a turn and burn type establishment versus somebody who's trying to create a symbiotic lifetime relationship with their client. You can't structure your policies to match that.
Mhm.
Likely, I will go back to what I said about what we were about to get in a fight about, but
I'm a
we
little bummed
didn't.
now, but that's okay.
Well, I'm still gonna kind of
Okay.
disagree with you. So I believe that when we create brand messaging, so your copy that is your standards across whatever it is that you do, I do think in today's day and age, because we don't know, I don't know what your metrics are, but I do know that a fair amount of clients, the usual journey is that they're cross-checking your multiple digital footprints when they're trying to find a new salon or even understand what the rules are. I think that it is important for the customer journey for it to be living anywhere where their footprint might hit. So on your booking app, that can live in your FAQs or even just in your description. On your website, you can have,
Mhm.
so your cancellation policy is unique, right? I would still have it on there. I would have an actual, do you have that on
Yes.
your website? Okay, cool. So I would then take that and I would have highlights on your Instagram, and I would have highlighted sections on your profile that say cancellation policy, rebook policy, how to book with us. All of those things, that information is living there. So it's not the I'm just going to bring this to your attention in a reactive, rude way on a story and tell you how crappy everybody is, but that information is living there for the client to easily access it
I get
without
that,
you.
yeah. I think the story thing is what I see often of the reaction, and I would
Oh, yeah.
challenge
Well,
anybody that
and so let's I don't remember off the top of my head, but while we're here, I wish I had someone specific to call out, but I do see these big companies like your, online gurus and your hair accounts that just sort of are like self-proclaimed like listen to us, this is the best industry practices, and they're posting to do stuff like that, and I'm like that doesn't. And so what happens is you're getting a lot of stylists that are posting this. When I remember not who it was, but the post that I saw was like, when you cancel on your stylist, they're losing, if they're getting one a week, they're losing X amount over the course of the year or whatever. And I'm like, who is that for? You're, first of all, you're talking to stylists. There's nobody that's scrolling through that's not in the hair industry that's on your page, first of all. And I just think that it sends the wrong message because now you have a bunch of independent stylists that have not figured out their business, like we said before, don't even know who they are or what they want or what sort of clients they want, but they know that they should be telling clients off passive aggressively with these, you take food from my family's mouth. I just think that looks crazy. If you're going to talk about having a professionalized industry, which is another whole topic we shouldn't get into today, but people are like,
That was literally where I was heading with
okay,
that.
we're
I
not
think
going
you
to fight.
guys,
We're not going to fight, apparently.
we're not fighting. Yeah, it's not, yeah, I'm actually kind of disappointed about the not fighting part. But yes, to that professionalized industry point, we have large, let's just say in our area where I am in South Florida, we have a pretty large presence of people that work in finance. You physically can't have a social media, just so you know, when you're in a lot of those like high, because there are actual compliance officers. Like my father-in-law works in finance and physically can't. Like he couldn't go and create a cute little infographic about what he does because of compliance. And so sometimes when we're using, I'm not going to be. I'm just going to try to find the most polite way to say
Just
this.
say it to hear it.
I think when we're using the words like, would you ever do that to your lawyer? Would you ever ask your doctor for that? Would you ever, whatever? I would say, well, no, but is your lawyer, doctor, or dentist posting that on their
right.
social media either? This is a two-way street.
Ding, ding,
So
ding.
we have to, and again, if that's how you're going to operate your business, like a
Right,
track
understand
play.
what you're putting out
So
there,
if
right?
you're going to if you're gonna go and be guns blazing for, like, on your stories, "This is what happened to me," it's
Attract
gonna
that,
come
yeah.
back. I actually I have a little mini story time for
Yes.
you where I found myself in this position where somehow I always ended up with truly the difficult clients that nobody else could handle. And I almost prided myself on it. And I would sort of like take them, even as running a booth rental salon, I would take them because I was like, oh man, this is going to potentially be a bad Google review. Like, I'll just handle it because they would have had maybe a not great experience with another stylist. Again, running their own business, but I'm like, this Google review is going to go on my salon. So I take them and I can handle it. And I would be like, look at me, I can handle all these difficult people, blah, blah, blah. And then it wasn't until I was in therapy last year, my therapist is like, yeah, you tend to put yourself in situations just to prove to yourself that you can handle difficult people to make yourself feel better, but that's not actually what you should be doing. I would question you why you feel the need to prove to everybody basically that what type of behavior you're willing to accept. And so when I sold my salon and moved to a suite, I kind of did a cleaning house and said, this is the new standard that we operate at. Very proactive communication, not reactive communication. And we parted ways with a couple of those people that I prided myself on being the only person that could handle them because like was
Mhm.
attracting like with that. I was like, I can handle them. And then they're like, so I'm going to treat you however I want to treat you. And then my therapist was like, we need to circle back.
It's cyclical.
Yeah.
If you are doing that, you're going to continue to do that. If you create a place where you have the rules that you live by and you don't waver from we always circle back to core values. So here we are again. But if you have your values and you aren't willing to stray from those, then you're going to, like you just said, attract over time the people that fit that. And that might take you longer. And I'm not saying get rid of all your clients. I'm not saying if somebody's always 5 or 10 minutes late that you should fire them as a client. I don't think that's cool either. I think we went through a phase where it was like fire your clients, and once it's monkey see monkey do on social media with hairdressers
Yeah.
and barbers, just like any other industry, well, ones that are allowed to have Instagram. But it just becomes a cyclical thing. So when you are like, okay, I'm in this as a career, as a professional for the long run, I'm not necessarily worried about today. And I know people need to eat and people need to pay rent, but within reason, if you
Mhm.
can look to the future and see, like, if I do this, if I can just attract 6 more people like Lucy, maybe Lucy's your ideal client. Excuse me. If I can attract 6 more Lucys, and that's going to spread out, and I'm going to have all these Lucys to deal with, which is going to make my life amazing. That's going to be,
Yep.
Mhm.
in the long run, much easier for anybody that's listening. Please, like, just lay something out on paper, because if you don't, like, again, circling back to what you said, I'm surprised you didn't flip it on your therapist. Like, you lay on this couch now. Now I'm the captain.
Yeah.
Um, uh,
I know. I when she said that, I was like, "Oh,
Dang.
man, I hate it
Yeah.
when you're right.
But
Dagnabbit."
anyways, if you're always doing the same thing over and over, you're going to continue to do that same thing over and over. So you might as well make it a pleasant experience rather than a
Mhm.
frustrated, oh, now I need to post on social media that so and so pissed me off. And guess what? So and so is not
Oh,
even going
yeah.
to see that post. They don't care. They're not checking your social media. And if you're posting your policies on social media and that person was checking it, they would have seen it. So they've either seen it or they don't care. So this person is not like who you're posting for. And I think another thing is it's just off-putting to potential clients
Right.
to see you complaining on Instagram. I'm not knocking the practice because I think people don't know what to do, so they just follow suit. But there are resources out there. You guys on Schedulicity, you guys have a ton of resources on blog posts that everything. It's the information's out there. You just got to be proactive, like you mentioned earlier, Missy, and go through and create the business that you want to create.
Yeah, and when you are having a crappy boundary day, have things in place for yourself or somebody that you
I always
can
say
talk
phone a friend.
to be like, you
Yeah.
literally phone a friend, Jen.
Don't
Like,
turn to social
okay,
media.
hey, yes, or even you, like, okay, I'm feeling super burnout today. Let's
Yeah.
go through why that is. Okay, I was responding at 7:30 in the morning. That's not how I want to go about doing this. So let's, talk to somebody, vent it, get it out. I get the actual like
Mhm.
chemical
Sure.
release that we need when we're ticked off and we need to vent. Find a way to do it that isn't looking for reaction. And this goes back to just, in my opinion, your marketing 101 for why you would put information out there to begin with. What is the purpose of what you're
Right.
posting? Because if you really look at that, are you really going to think that that's going to gain you clients? Is that post going to gain you clients? That's typically somebody's goal. Is it making your current clients feel valued and supported? Or are we just going on a rant? And if we're going on a rant, let's maybe let's
Yeah.
maybe
Or
phone a
have a
friend.
separate
I
private
actually
account.
had
Something.
Go create some private Facebook
or
group and go
that,
rant in there.
whatever. My last thing about the boundaries that I keep on meaning to say this, but we hadn't gotten to when we're talking about new stylists that have gone independent, please optimize your Instagram bio in any way where clients might come across for proper communication so that you don't turn out to be like Jen and I. Because when you start out and we don't
Right.
know better, we didn't. We didn't have all these tools in our pockets. And I mean, I'm walking around with the paper,
Yeah.
scheduler answering phone calls at
Yeah.
freaking Outback Steakhouse with my family because I need to get that client on the books so that I can make all the monies.
Mhm.
Your blooming onion is getting
It
cold.
doesn't
It's
have
ridiculous. Your margarita is all
Heck
watered
yeah,
down.
man. I know. I need to know, like, I think I was 20, so it's probably
All
a
right.
Coke, but whatever. But but do it like that. Don't because you don't need to, and you don't need to undo poor behavior.
Yeah.
We're having to
Way harder to
undo,
undo it.
that
Yeah.
whole like we didn't know. Yeah, like we didn't know smoking cigarettes were bad. We didn't know low fat. Like all of the things that our parents are doing. Jen and I are like, don't not
Yeah.
have boundaries with your communication. We didn't know it was bad. But that, and you are competing and in an arena where there are a vast amount of stylists who are pursuing having their
Mhm.
ducks in a row with how to get on their books. And so if your communication is DM to book, I don't want to be negative towards you, but I will say that that is most likely not the most long-term effective way to structure your booking policy. So I would challenge you to come up with a more client-centric approach because that client now had to slide into your DMs and potentially wait for you to get back, or maybe you have an automated message, but that's 3 more
Right.
clicks that they have to do. Put the book now button in your bio. Make it very clear with how to get on your books. If you don't want the book now button, have a form, have a very clear way of what it looks like to communicate with you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. You, there's probably tons of ways to do this, but you could have a, book now for new clients where it prompts a consultation, whether you do it virtually like we're doing here through video, which we did a ton of during the lockdown, or you have your loyal clients that already they know how to book. So if somebody is because I know a
Yep.
lot of people that have said, I don't want to switch over to a booking software because everyone will mess up and book the wrong way. And again, that falls on you as a business to educate them.
And there's always going to be a small percentage, but that's not where your focus goes. Most people,
That's fine. Do a
even
consultation,
yeah,
right?
even
Yeah.
our new clients that book online, they'll put in the notes like if I didn't book this right, like if you want to call me, like it. People are trying to use this.
Well, that's because we're not talking smack to our clients
yeah,
on social media, so they feel like they can contact us.
like they're trying to use technology the best that they can. But you're right, you have to have the systems in place so they understand how to book and make it as simple as possible.
Cool.
And if you're an independent, I would say this, or if you're a commission salon, I would encourage you to encourage your stylist to do this. Look over your schedule. weekly and daily. When like look over it regularly, and if you see something on there and it's the name of a client who you don't recognize and they're booked for something, do a little bit of digging, see if they went through the proper protocol to actually
Right.
book the proper thing. It's a couple extra steps that are going to save you from potentially needing to make a
Absolutely.
nasty feel the desire to make a nasty post. That is one of my pieces of advice, is to just regularly spend time looking at
Well,
your
that's being
calendar. Like,
proactive too,
just look
right?
at it.
Like, it's a great way
Yes.
to approach it.
Well, and that's an amazing piece of advice. We've talked about the power of the touch point. So a touch point before your appointment is going to clear up a lot of that stuff. If that person needs to cancel, they're probably going to do it rather than get on the phone with you or whatever and go through that process. They're not going to waste their time. They're not going to waste your time. So, plus,
But imagine the difference in the scenario of a client booked the wrong thing because they didn't do the right thing. They didn't fill out the right form. They didn't know what to book. They didn't have the right answer. They booked the wrong thing. I can almost guarantee you that nobody wants to sit in the salon and put yourself in the client's perspective. How embarrassing is that to show this full makeover and you booked for just a face frame foil or whatever that version is, and your stylist says, I don't have time to do that today. That's not a fun experience for the stylist. It's not a fun experience
Right.
right.
for the client. Let's just go all the way there. So, what would that have done for your client retention and your customer service if you see somebody on the books and maybe you have a question and then you reach out to them and say, Hey, I noticed that you're new here. I just want to make sure we have you down for the right thing. Oh my gosh, you probably just acquired a lifer. You can have them leave with blue hair that they didn't even want, and they're going to love you forever because you took the time to not make them feel dumb.
Absolutely.
Customer service. Amazing. Anything else? Do we have anything else?
No, thanks for my therapy talk.
I know
That was great. I'll let you know how it
I love
goes.
it.
Okay,
I'm
great.
next.
All right.
Well, we'll be chatting again soon, so it's great.
All right. Thanks so
Perfect.
much, Missy. All right. We'll talk
Thank
soon.
you.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, sounds good. Bye.